Hello, Gaston County. Welcome to episode number 27 of Gaston's Great, a podcast highlighting some of the great things happening in and around Gaston County. I'm your host, Stephen Long, and we are coming to you from the international headquarters of GSM Services and looking forward to having some great discussions in the coming weeks and months. We simply believe in discussing more of the reasons why Gaston's great. We are highlighting another terrific organization this week and have Angela Burgess with us, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Gaston Association of Realtors. Angela, it's great to have you on, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's really great to be here this morning.
Again, we appreciate your time today. So we're going to get right to the questions. If you don't mind, can you just kind of share or tell us a little bit about yourself or anything you feel like sharing?
I've been with the Gaston Association since 2016, and I have a diverse background in HR and finance.
Okay.
I'm a Gaston County native, an Ashbrook graduate, and attended Brevard College. After living in Florida and California for about 6 years, I've moved back to Gastonia, and then I moved to Charlotte for almost 20 years, and then back to Gastonia in 2017. So I'm a mom of 2 adult boys and a Mimi to 1 granddaughter,
well, good for you.
Which is awesome. And I enjoy working in my yard, kayaking, hiking, and just anything just outdoorsy.
Well, that's good. Actually, those are 2 things, surprisingly, that you can do right here in Gaston County.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but of course, North Carolina has got a lot of good hiking and kayaking, even out of Gaston County. If you don't mind me asking, when did you graduate from Ashbrook? Or is that a bad question to ask?
81.
Okay, 81. I'm an 88 graduate of Ashbrook, so it's Greenwave's got to stick together.
Absolutely.
Especially when we have 2 non-Ashbrook graduates in the room. So, but we won't go there. So, how did you mentioned how long you've been at the association? How did you get there? Or how did you end up getting involved and becoming the CEO of Gaston Association of Realtors?
I had an acquaintance from years ago that actually was my realtor.
Okay.
That I had used for several different transactions over the years. And she just happened to reach out to me one day and ask me if I would be interested.
Okay.
That they had a position opening, that the lady that had been there, she'd been there 42 years, which speaks volumes in that position.
I don't think I knew that.
So with that, I entertained her proposal and looked into it, and then almost 6 years later, here I am.
Oh, wow. Okay. Very good. And I mean, most of the time that's how things happen, and it's some kind of connection, or it's about who you know. I would say also maybe especially in the realtor world. Can you share kind of how would you describe the mission of the Gaston Association of Realtors? What is it that you guys are trying to kind of accomplish?
We're an organization of real estate professionals, and we promote ethical structure and uniting the members for the purpose to promote the right to own, transfer, and use real property.
Okay. So that's a big statement. How would you kind of tie in with the mission? So are there anything that specifically the organization is doing, like initiatives, or I'm not sure, projects, or month to month? What is it that the organization is doing?
We do a lot of advocacy. A lot of people don't realize that. So on that level, we're doing at the state and the national, and we're advocating for homeowners' rights, for fair housing, and we're also engaging in legislative and regulatory issues. So we meet yearly in Raleigh for legislative days, and we're able to speak with our legislators, with the House and the Senate. And so being able to speak to them directly and have that relationship with them, that if there's something that's coming up in legislative or something like that, that we need to be able to share our views and our ideas as realtors, then we're able to have that one-on-one with them during those times. Then we try to be the voice of real estate in the local communities. Okay. And so with that, we've hosted some candidate forums, and we've partnered with the Gaston Business Association with those in the previous years, and we just held one about 2-3 weeks ago. Okay. So yeah,
we're recording this on Wednesday the 3rd, so yesterday was kind of a big day for related to that being election day. So what would be, I don't think this was a question we shared, but what would be something maybe you can share that is something that you would be, something specific that you would be advocating for? I mean, is there a specific, we try to stay very, non-political on the podcast, but, you give the opportunity to share maybe something that affects the real estate world or homeowners, or is there something specific you can think of?
Absolutely. One of the things that we advocated last year during the pandemic was for remote notary access.
Oh, okay. That's interesting,
so that's something that it affects a lot of different businesses, not just in the real estate market, but, banking, car sales, I mean, just everyday, anything life if you just need a notary for.
Sure.
So with that, we advocated for that, and we got an emergency injunction, and then it has now been signed into law in the state of North Carolina. Okay. So something as simple as that, a lot of people don't know that that's the things that we advocate for.
Because I'm assuming that's required for any type of real estate transaction, right? Some of the paperwork and some of the...
It is.
Is that a fair assessment? Because please understand you're talking to a novice when it comes to real estate or anything like that.
It is. I mean, a lot of people probably last year with the pandemic, without having that, they might not have been in a home, or they might have been able to sell a home. So with that, we also advocated for them being essential workers. It's, sometimes it's hard to sell real estate on your own, for sale by owner. There's a lot of things that people don't really realize or understand the legalities of that. So with a realtor, they can actually get all of that information and do all of that just in one stop. And so they also are with the remote and the essential workers, we were able to help people.
Yeah, I mean, is it fair to say, because again, for me, I've bought and sold, I guess, my wife and I 3 houses now, and we've been very fortunate. We've been able to use the same realtor here locally every time. But is it fair to say that most homeowners really don't have a concept, or consumers? I'm speaking for myself. I don't really have a concept of what all goes into that when you're buying and selling a home. It's I just remember the first time sitting in it at the actual closing, and I was just overwhelmed with everything that the 2 realtors had to know and advise us on and help us with. I mean, it was really just again, like I said, I had no idea.
There's a lot. I mean,
26-year-old. 27-year-old first-time home buyer.
I know for myself, I'm not a real estate agent, so I don't have my license. And coming into this industry, there was a lot of things that I have to learn as well.
Sure.
The lingo, just how I think the culture of being a realtor, it's a little bit slower paced than your normal corporate world. And they really have a passion for home ownership and helping their clients and working with each other. So that's just one of the things that I really see that I really enjoy about the job.
Okay. So this next question is maybe tough, but do you have any specific examples or a story related to something that you guys have done or are doing where you feel like an individual or a family was really helped, or something that kind of stands out in your mind where, wow, if it wasn't for a realtor or our organization, this might not have happened?
We do a lot of different things throughout the year.
Okay.
We hold an annual golf tournament. Proceeds have benefited local charities, Camp Centurion, Supportive Housing for Veterans, Community in Schools, and this year, Habitat for Humanity. We select an organization during the holidays, provide meals and Christmas gifts, sort of like the angel tree type
absolutely,
thing. So one particular year, a family from Community in Schools was a recipient. The family was struggling to provide a home for their children. At our annual holiday gathering, it was announced that they needed assistance for housing, and they were about to lose where they were at. And our members gathered together at that particular time and day, and they provided enough funds for 3 months of housing.
Okay, so that's a good story, right?
Yeah. The next year, and the next year, this same family was part of Communities in Schools, and they returned back to our holiday event, and they announced that because of the generosity, they were able to get on their feet during that time, and they were able to get out of a rental house or a rental apartment of a 2-bedroom, and I want to say they had 4 or 5 kids.
Oh, wow.
In a 2-bedroom apartment. That's a little bit crazy. But that next year, they were able to get into a rental single residence home that was a 3-bedroom house, just because of the generosity of our members.
Yeah, that's a good example. That's a great example on a lot of fronts, but just you never know when something you're involved with, Communities in Schools or whatever the case may be, where you may find out an individual or a group or a family, and you wouldn't, without that involvement, you just wouldn't hear that. So that was actually a terrific example. Looking back on your almost 6 years with the organization, can you think of one thing maybe, or two, doesn't have to be just one, that maybe you're most proud of accomplishing at the Gaston Association of Realtors in your time?
Our members are in a very competitive industry. Each are competing to find clients every day.
Sure.
The housing market now is more competitive than ever, and the low inventory, that makes it very challenging for our members. And right now there's 1.5 million realtors across the United States. When our members walk through our doors of the association to attend meetings, and alongside with appraisers and affiliate members like mortgage lenders, warranty specialists, or home inspectors, they form a team to ensure that the task at hand gets done. Our members working together make the association, and I think that's one of the things that I'm really proud of with our members and our association, is that whether it's advocacy for homeowners' rights, fair housing, or if it's just in the local community helping veterans or communities in schools, for people to be able to keep their kids in school. And right now with Habitat for Humanity, building homes for people and providing them with something that they may not have ever had or thought that they could have had, the American dream of home ownership. I think that's one of the things, just being proud of an organization that really comes together, even in that competitive market. They come together as a family and work together to make sure that we, as the association, work together.
So, saying the competitive market, I think earlier before we started, I think you said over 400 realtor members here locally in the organization.
Yes.
So when y'all get together, I mean, is everybody, they're competing right for some of the same customers, I'm assuming? Is that everybody gets along, or do you have some brawls at some of the meetings?
We get along very well at our at our events. I think our events are very open to networking, and that's one of the things, developing the relationships with others, because you never know who you're going to be across the table with.
Sure. At
a closing or at negotiations. So I think that's one of the things that brings those core standards that we have and our code of ethics that we just are, and those are in the forefront of making sure that we provide those opportunities for success for our members.
Yeah, we have associations like that, in our industry as well. And I've always, even when it's just meeting and discussing our industry and business with even competitive companies, I'm always learning something. You never know when another company might be able to help us out for some reason, or you just never know the circumstances. So I appreciate that collaboration. So this is a podcast about Gaston County and why our area is such a great place. Can you kind of share maybe in your own words, why do you think Gaston County in our area is better, our community better, because the Association of Realtors is here?
I think for us, we just want to be the voice of real estate in Gaston County. So with that, we do the advocacy for fair housing and for affordable housing, and they're definitely essential for our local economy. So we have resources, we have grants available through the National Association of Realtors, and so those are things that we really want to get the message out to our local councilmen, to our local communities, so that reach out to us. We have resources available, and I don't think a lot of people really understand or know that we do have that.
So you mentioned the National Association of Realtors. So is Gaston, your organization, part of that, or are we completely independent organization, or is there some association with that?
We are. When you become a member of the Gaston Association of Realtors, you're a member of the North Carolina Realtors at the state level, and then you're also a member of the National Association of Realtors. Okay. So it's a 3-in-1 membership with our realtor members, and so you have access to all of the resources that the national and the state have to offer.
Okay, so it's a little bit more. It's a little more broad than just necessarily what's going on here in Gaston County. Get access to a lot of more national, state and national resources. Okay, yes. If you can look ahead 5 to 10 years, kind of what do you envision the organization looking like down the road?
Gaston County has a very strong economic outlook, and with the Gaston Association of Realtors, we'll continue our efforts to focus on providing information and encouragement, engagement opportunities for our members. So I think we'll still be that strong voice of real estate in the community.
Okay, very good. So obviously we'll come back to the Gaston Association of Realtors, but is there anything I haven't asked that I should have, or anything you'd like to share about the organization? Or have we covered it? You think we've covered it pretty well so far?
I think we've covered a lot. I think, again, the advocacy part is just, we've done so much. Even with some of the things that we're doing right now for advocacy is for working with DOT to take over subdivision roads within 90 days. So that allows that if you're moving into a subdivision or something that, your roads aren't forgotten.
Right.
So I think that there's also what we call orphan roads, where you've seen in the news a lot that with the orphan roads, you may have a neighborhood that's on one side of a creek, and that creek floods, and then they have no road access. They're either stuck on one side or the other. So some of those are called orphan roads. So we've been advocating for getting funding for those for the 2022-23 budget with the state. And then we have a lot of historic mills here in Gaston County that are dilapidated, that are just in ruins. And so we've been working with the state also as well to provide funding for those refurbishments and for tax credits and things for historic districts.
That's probably a good example, again, one of those things that the normal there's so many things like that I just don't know about, right? And I think your typical homeowner or consumer or citizen might not even know those type of things are available for development or whatever the case may be. And then if you're doing some type of real estate transaction, you're not working with a realtor that is involved, you still may not find out about that.
Exactly.
So is that a fair assessment?
Exactly. I think a lot of people really think that a realtor, all they do is just sell. They sell property. They help individuals buy and sell. So that, they don't understand the other side of our association or what the National Association of Realtors actually does. So some people might look at it as it's just a money game, but it's really not. There's a lot of things that we do behind the scenes that really help homeowners and protect their rights.
This might be a question that some listeners have. Have you ever seen a market like we're dealing with right now? I mean, have you and your, I'm sure you have a lot of conversations with your members, and it just seems a little, I don't know, crazy. And then the first thought that comes to mind, I would think for just a typical homeowner is, boy, it's great to be a realtor right now. But to your point, the inventory is so low, and the competition is so high. I mean, I'm sure that can be a catch-22 kind of situation sometimes.
It can be, and I think for new members especially coming in and they've seen, oh, it's a great time to get into the real estate market, and things are, it's a seller's market,
right, yeah.
and there's money to be had, and that's true. However, it takes a lot of motivation, and you have to be motivated to be able to go out and find your clients and to be able to know the industry and understand the industry and be able to survive, I think. And I think that's in any competitive market. It's that's part of being a consumer, or being an entrepreneur. So I think it's just the signs of the time right now,
right,
that we're in, and hopefully things will adjust itself over, the next couple of years.
Seems like it would have to be some, you would think, some kind of correction. When things are, I guess there's always it seems to be always some kind of correction when things are really going great. Whoa. That was echo from God there. Sorry. I just smacked the, what do you call this thing that my microphone's mounted on? What happened? Very good, Elizabeth. Elizabeth's working the sound effects today. But yeah, when things are going great, when things are not going so great, there's, typically and historically, economically, there's always been some type of correction, and I sure hope, to your point, yeah, it might be a great time to sell your house, but then you have to go find another one, right?
Right. You have to have plan B, and sometimes
right, yeah.
C, D, E, and F plans.
Absolutely. So listen, we're going to come back to the to your association before we finish, and make sure we share as much as we can for our listeners, and hopefully your organization can get some benefit. But we do have a section of questions that, and this is about Gaston County, and I'm sure this is really what all the members of your organization are wanting to know about you. So we're going to call it, "Do you really work in Gaston County?" round of questions. So are you ready, Angela, for these important questions?
I think so.
All right. The first one is, what is your favorite Tony's ice cream flavor?
They have a lot, but I think black cherry is probably my favorite.
Black cherry. That was many episodes ago when we had, what was the GBA on, Gaston Association on. We actually had a live taste test with Patrick Mumford and Steve DeAvia, and pretty much black cherry was the winner.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's a very, very
great
good.
minds. Yeah,
very good choice. Sundrop or Cheerwine?
That's a hard one, but I don't know. Just going back to Cheerwine.
Okay. Well, I was going to assume with black cherry that Cheerwine might be your answer. Favorite local restaurant?
I just think any of the local.
Okay. That's a very good,
the local
politically correct
all
answer,
the local
Angela.
All the locals are fabulous. So
you know what? I can look back 20 years to now. We do have a lot of locally owned choices now that are really exceptional. I mean, they really are. And we've got that question over 27 episodes now has there's a couple that come up more than others, but it's a broad range of answers to that question.
And we have a Dine with Diversity committee. And,
okay.
Or actually, it's a diversity committee, but we actually do once a month, and we go out to differently local restaurants, and we meet up on a Friday afternoon to socialize. But we do frequent those different ones every year. We've been doing this for a couple of years. So
you're intentional about how you do that. Okay, well that's very good. So earlier you mentioned you like. Hiking, kayaking. So what is your favorite outdoor activity in Gaston County?
Probably kayaking right now. So I've just, any of the parks right now that have access that I can get in on the water, really enjoy doing that.
So where do you typically do that? Or is it all over the place?
It's all over. Different places. I don't frequent one more than the other. So I think for me, I just like to do different. So
okay, very good. Yeah, we had John Sibrey on from the Catawba Riverkeeper. I don't remember what episode that was, but yeah, I know that's a really big thing here in Gaston County. And again, to your point, it's we're unique, right? You can get the two things you mentioned earlier is the hiking and the kayaking. You wouldn't necessarily think that a landlocked county like ours would have so many opportunities for that, but we actually sure do. Mm-hmm. So this is a question that I asked just because I can, and so I'm going to ask you anyway. I don't really have any preconceived notions what your answer might be, but I'm going to say UNC Duke or NC State?
UNC.
Can we give something? Yeah. Unfortunately, that's probably the most common answer. It's the most popular answer, Elizabeth. So, what is something very few people know about you?
I like to paint with acrylics.
Really? Okay. So is that something that you've done for a long time or something that's more recent or?
As a child, we lived in Cherryville. Okay. And my mom, they owned a craft shop downtown Cherryville, and got into it then. I know that she let me start taking like art, painting, drawing lessons. So I think from there, just the creativity of my parents, and just over the years, that's when I went to Brevard, for to do, Brevard College. I mean, at area. Ashbrook, that was, if I could spend all my time in the art lab, that was where you could always find me. So I think I'd sort of take that where I didn't pursue that any further, but I think I've taken that into my positions where I've worked, is the creativity of not being able to, or being able to do different things, and just is that how you kind of maybe disconnect and a little stress relief when you're doing that? I think so. Yeah.
That's good. I mean, and everybody, I hope, should have something like that they are able to do and able to disconnect, especially in this world of constantly being connected and communication, all the time. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. How about a book or anything that you would recommend to our readers?
A book I've just been recently, haven't finished it yet, but working on it's called She Explores, and it's by Gail Straub, and it's a book where she talks about just being able to get out in nature and disconnecting again, and doing the things that you like to do, doing it now. And with this book, she has different sections and things of different people that she's met along her journey, where she worked in the corporate field, and then she never thought herself as an outdoor person, but she's just sort of gone and started exploring in different areas of the United States, and just speaking with different people and what their journey has been and why they've gotten back to nature.
Yeah, I think for me personally, there's not, especially as I've gotten older, there's not many things more calming to me than the quiet and nature, hiking to a peak or somewhere where just quiet and nothing else going on, nothing around you. You can't hear your phone's not buzzing, and you can't hear the traffic, and or even at night when you're away from all the lights, and how it's amazing what the sky looks like when there's no city lights around. Is that a good description, Elizabeth? So again, I appreciate you sharing that. We'll definitely make a note of that. So again, I appreciate you sharing that, indulging us for a few minutes on some of those Gaston County questions. So we're going to finish up here with just a few more questions. The first one is, remember this is a podcast about why Gaston's great. Why would you say, besides the Gaston Association of Realtors, why would you say Gaston is such a great place?
I think it holds for me just that childhood, neighbor, community type, going back to your roots. And that's the feel, I think, that Gaston County brings. So there's a lot of diverse things in Gaston County. Like you said, you've got the outdoors, you've got you do have the mountains, you've got Crowder's Mountain, Kings Mountain, which is right on the border, but you've got a lot of those things. And then again, like the great rivers and things like that we have. But again, even for our association, getting out and just making it intentional to go around to the local restaurants and finding those little, I don't want to say hole in the wall, but the ones that are the back street kind of restaurants that you don't frequent as much, or you are not real sure about. And we go out and we're like, let's go try them out. And so I think with that, there's a lot of things you just got to be intentional and get out there and just find it. Yeah, that's a relatively common theme, and we're close and we're big enough to have a lot of amenities and a nice place, unique with the lakes and the Crowder's Mountain, but we're also close enough to Charlotte, frankly, if somebody wants to go do that. Which I think we have plenty of things here. No reason to go to Charlotte unless we have to. So if you weren't involved with the Gaston Association of Realtors, what do you think you would be doing? Probably the same type of, association style management that I do now. I don't know. I've been having a dream lately of selling my house and buying an RV and just go traveling. But, that's
interesting. Yeah.
That's one of those kinds of dreams that you have, so.
I would think there's a lot of that pent up demand for or thoughts about that, especially after the last 20 months when people have been so many people have
exactly
been
it makes you start rethinking.
Yeah. Well, you know what, if you look at the working world right now, a lot of people are rethinking that, and I think it has given people some second thoughts about that. So looking back just a few years ago, I'm sure, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Don't be afraid. Just go out and do it. Do it in fear if you have to. It's okay, and you never know what you'll find. Yeah,
I often heard some people on and off. I try to study and read a lot, but I've heard courage with some people defined as the absence of fear. But I've kind of, to your point, I've kind of grown to think it's being afraid, but you go do it anyway, and I know when you're 20, some of those things that seem impossible, they're really not, or you have this fear that it's not going to turn out right, but so what? I mean, as long as it's not dangerous, right? So I appreciate you sharing that. So I've got one other quick question, something that I thought of, and how has the realty world been impacted by, because our business has been impacted by this on different levels, kind of the online world, and I don't know I know like the car industry has really been affected by it. Amazon and Google seem to control the entire world. So my point there is, why would, because I think I know most of the answers, so why would somebody want to deal with a realtor as opposed to doing something that might seem simpler by doing it online, or some of these more bigger national type of groups? And I could be butchering that question. I hope you understand what I'm trying to. The point is, why is a realtor more important to have a partner there as opposed to doing something that might seem simpler?
I think the unknown, where there's so much that is unknown with just the average consumer, and with some of these, the online virtual big companies that you hear about, I think you don't have that personal relationship that you get with having a realtor that knows the economy locally, they know the area locally, they can have that personal touch as far as being able to relate. They may have the experience, that the others may not. I know, I think with anything right now, when you call and you get customer service, you hear dogs barking in the background. I've heard you hear, roosters crowing, babies crying, different things. Yeah. And not to say that's not going to happen when you call a realtor, because, they're they have their individual lives as well. But I think they have that, they can personally connect with you. Sure. And be able to understand your needs better than maybe the online or the virtual.
Is it fair to say just, you're less likely to make a mistake and less likely to have something, unfortunate happen, to your point about dealing with I don't sure I like that word expert, but in essence it is. They're experts in what's going on in our community here, as opposed to somebody that's not from here, or not you're dealing with not
right, because there's different regulations and laws and things that may be different from somewhere else, and so with that they're going to know those things. Not to say that we always understand those, but they know where to get a hold of the information locally if those things arise.
Yeah, and simple things like an issue comes up with a home inspection, who to call, who to deal with. They're going to know somebody local that can help with that.
Right.
Those type of things that are going to be missed otherwise, and that can be a lot of stress and anxiety, because again,
it can be right.
Selling and buying 3 homes, or I guess selling 2 and buying 3. There's a good odds that we were going to have some issue, right? And we did on one house, but you know what? It was not it turned out, like most things, it turned out to be not as big a deal as it sounded like in the beginning.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, I think individuals, buying single family homes, there are those situations where that arise that it's, I think that having that realtor and having that person that understands and knows, they can talk them down off the ledge.
Oh, sure.
That they can
more than once with our situations, matter of fact, there was some situation probably came up in all 3 houses that I was able to ask, well, what have you seen with this in the past? What does your experience tell you how to deal with this? And those things are extremely, extremely helpful that you're not going to get without that personal touch and interaction. So
they are.
And I know that was kind of a curveball question for you, but I appreciate you sharing that. But I think it's an important question, because we're in a similar business where it's service, it's one-on-one, it's interactions and building relationships, and ultimately that's that's why I think that's so important. So, Angela, this has been really terrific. So where can listeners go to learn more about the organization? Or are there any events coming up? Or is there a way that, even if you're not a realtor, you can get involved? Or can you share some of that for our listeners?
Well, as far as a lot of the events that we have, they're mainly for our realtors.
Sure.
The annual golf tournament that we do have, that is open to anyone that wants to participate. Okay. And so our website at GastonRealtors.org.
Okay.
They can look at that and see different things on there. We always have our golf tournament listed and information on how to reach out for that. And we just held that in September, so it'll be coming up again next year.
So the timing of this wasn't great for that, but okay.
Right. So, but with that, there's always next year, and we had a great tournament this year. And with the other things that are coming up, like I said, we're helping Habitat for Humanity. Right now, we're for our holiday event in December, we are going to be 2 families that are moving into homes relatively soon. We're doing a housewarming shower for them. Instead of maybe doing the gifts and the things that we've reached out in the past, then we are doing housewarming and providing them with pantry needs. And for, sometimes you move into a house, you don't want to move in with old things. You want to move in with, with new things. So we decided this year to go a different route. Yeah. And so
you're really asking about what's needed as opposed to maybe what some other.
I mean, we've done PPE equipment for the Gaston County schools. We just did that this past summer, and took up donations and distributed those in August, so that the schools would have something.
Probably something you never thought you would have to do, but it's a real need, right?
Never did. Yeah, we gave I want to say $2,000 last year to Gaston County schools for PPE equipment for them to use. So just a lot of different things that we do for our members, and being able to be out in the community. Not so much for the public, but we do try to get our members out and help.
Okay,
good. The annual golf tournament is more for members and for public. So
okay, well, very good. So, any last words of wisdom or anything else you'd like to share before we finish up here?
Even though our association is made primarily of realtors, they also encourage businesses to get involved as well. We have memberships for our affiliate members where they can come to our meetings. We have an affiliate council that meets monthly that plans events. In fact, we're having a social event at the station tomorrow evening.
Okay.
And we're going to get together with our affiliates and join in with them and hopefully, make some contact where the past, like you said, 20 months we've just started back meeting in person in August, but that's a challenge as well.
A lot of people are dying for the face-to-face
exactly
interactions, and there's just so much that's missed when you're unable to do that.
Right, but any of those businesses that might not be engaged in the real estate profession, but have interest concerning real estate. Industry.
Very good.
Just reach out and contact me at Angela at GastonRealtors.com.
Okay. And I appreciate you bringing it up because GSM we're an affiliate member of the organization, so I appreciate you sharing that. Again, Angela, thank you very much for your time. It's been really good and informative, and I'm going to finish up here with my own book recommendation that I do and my kind of quote or thought for the week. And the book this week is by a gentleman named Jeff Henderson, and it's called Know What You're For. Let me repeat that, Know What You're For. So it's basically a book about whatever you're doing, whether it's personal, professional, you're involved in the community. What is it? Just keep in mind what you're trying to accomplish, and are you doing things that kind of stay in line with your own personal beliefs and kind of your view of the world and what you're kind of passionate about. But it's a great book and a relatively short read. But again, that's Jeff Henderson, Know What You're For. And my quote and thought for the week comes from Henry Ford, who he's another gentleman, has a treasure trove of quotes and thoughts. But my favorite from him is, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. So that kind of goes back on our attitude and our outlook of the things that we're involved with, and how our attitude and view of something really impacts what we're trying to accomplish, and whether or not we can or do accomplish anything. So that's it for episode number 27. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen to today's episode. Please spread the word if you can about the podcast, and please don't hesitate to contact us here at podcast@gastonsgreat.com. We're always looking for suggestions for future podcast topics and guests. You can find the podcast and subscribe at the website, gastonsgreat.com, and please follow us on our social media platforms. You can also find us and subscribe and rate the podcast on most podcast services such as iTunes, Spotify, and Google. Of course, again, that's if you're going to give us a 5-star rating. And frankly, also share it. Yeah, share it. We really want as many people around Gaston County. It doesn't have to be just Gaston County. I think we have one consistent listener from Germany. Is that right? Wow. So that's impressive. We really are international now with Gaston's Great. Thanks again to Angela Burgess from the Gaston Association of Realtors for being our guest today. Gaston's Great is produced and brought to you by Amy Anderson and Elizabeth King from GSM Services, and edited here locally by the Sumner Group. I'm your host, Stephen Long. Thanks again for hanging out with us, and please keep coming back to hear more reasons why Gaston's great.